Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Spiritual Speakeasy, where the spirits are always served, the bar is always open, and tonight's guest is Rob. Rob is from Get Haunted, owner of Get Haunted, and he's already got his fan club saying hi. Hi, Sarah, Damien, Lori, everybody out there. Let's bring Rob on because we are going to have a talk.
Oh, we're going to have a talk. Hey, Julie.
We're going to have a talk. How are you tonight? Hi, Brandy.
I am good. How are you?
I am well. I can't complain. I hear you're getting ready for a huge event.
We are getting ready for a huge event. It seems like it's all we're getting ready for, probably for the last 5, 6, 7 days now. Just we have the Supernatural soiree, as you know, this weekend. It's just a big ass. Yeah, it's a Halloween party on the Battleship, New Jersey, in Camden, New Jersey, and it's been a lot of work. So hats off, salutes, kudos to anybody out there that puts on any big kind of event. So, you know, paracons to wedding planners, like there's a lot that goes into it. So it's been a learning experience, very eye-opening, but at the end of the day, you know, we wanted to create something where the community can come together and celebrate Halloween and each other and just throw all the BS aside for a night and hang out.
That's nice.
And I think that's where we're at with it. Well, you know, come Saturday, it's all gonna get going. Oh, Kent, I am. I'm here to give the best interview ever given on any network.
A1 cult leader. A1 cult leader here.
So yeah, I am not used to being here without my handler and business partner, Sarah. She's on the side.
She's on. She's gonna, as we watch, she's gonna tell you when to shut up. No.
Well, I know. She's monitoring, and I've got the phone propped up so I can see. You know, she's got her own special chime so that I know when I'm off the rails here. But yeah, so thank you for having me on tonight.
So tickets are still for sale, right? People can still come out.
Tickets are still for sale. And if everybody's good, and if there's anybody on the fence tonight, maybe we'll do a fun little buy one get one situation just for this show. How about that?
Look at that, folks. This is going to be an awesome night.
Yeah, she's keeping tabs. Yeah.
The cult rules.
But yeah, we've been working hard and trying to get this thing put together and synchronized, you know, because we've got a DJ and we've got, you know, announcements to make throughout the night, and there's a 360 camera, and there's fire dancers and music on the pier and step and repeat. It's gonna be, I would liken it to the you know, the Oscars of the horror and paranormal world.
It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be
so
cool.
Is the ship gonna sail, or is the ship docked?
No, she's docked. It did sail over the summer. The portal, Sarah wanted me to, yeah. So, you know, they're Warner Paranormal's having their own party up at Wilson Castle, and we're connecting those two parties via a portal similar to the one you've seen on the news where people were doing stupid shit, you know, in the portals. And yeah, so we're having that, tested it out today with Mike, and it looked and felt really, really cool. So we've got a portal, but yeah, the ship actually did sail over the summer. They just redid the decks with the teak, and it left dry dock and went, or it left dock and went out to dry dock, and for a couple months they redid the deck. Then it sailed back. It was a big to do around here. Watching, it's an Iowa class, if I have that correct. Battleship. It's the longest one by just a few inches, apparently, and it's a badass ship. So it's down
That's
there
going to be
last
so,
Wednesday.
so
Yeah,
fun.
it's just gonna be a cool. It's gonna be a cool night.
So get your tickets. Get your tickets.
Yeah, supernaturalsoiree.com. You know, it's um there's gonna be it's the first of its kind, I think, and you know, depending on how well it goes, it might be the last of its kind. I don't know, but I have a feeling it's gonna be absolutely amazing. There's a lot of cool
No, it's
people.
going
We
to
have,
be awesome. It's
yeah, Patty Negri doing a midnight seance, which is that's completely sold out. Now we had to add some tickets, but we hit max capacity for where that's going to occur. It's got its own special room. We're firing the 5-inch guns at probably right around 9 o'clock, which is going to be ridiculous. It's going to be a spectacle.
awesome. Well, everybody, make sure you get your tickets, plane tickets, whatever you have to do to get out there. That's going to be a blast. And anything Get Haunted puts on is good. So
We try. We do our best to make it about the people attending, and at our events, we want the guests. It's their night. We have our rules, right? Hey, if we see something, during an event, we see something moving down that hallway, we send the guests. We don't go chasing after it, as much as it's hard not to sometimes. But
hey, you
we'll
go
check
check
that
that
out.
out.
But it really is about everybody else, and that's what we're hoping for this event too. We just want everybody to come and feel special and be special and enjoy it. There's a costume party, so it's going to be amazing.
And that's what I love about Get Haunted in general is you guys really try to bring people together as opposed to finding the differences and focusing on the negatives. You bring the positives together, which to me is absolutely wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you. It was indeed part, and remains. It was part of the charter, part of the vision, the mission. Um, Greg, no, I was in the Army actually, but and I think Julie, the first time I got to meet you was at MSP with Nesper, right? And we have very,
Mhm.
very different investigative styles, and even belief systems. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't work together, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't do events together, or we shouldn't even have discussions. To me, you know
Absolutely.
what the one of the reasons I started Get Haunted was because I was watching the divides happen and the silos happening out in the field, and this group only worked with these people or these kind of people, and forget about even just belief systems, but skill sets and all these different things.
Mhm.
So I saw the fractures, and I was like, how about we just have just one place, or an area or a community where people go, hey, I can help you out with that. So that was the vision, right? And then I kicked it off, and it was just a few months later, I went on Sarah's show and pitched the whole concept, and resonated with her, and here we are, coming up on year number 3. So yeah,
That's crazy.
everybody, there's space for everybody. Everybody should have a voice. Nobody's voice is more important than the others. Um, there's a lot of things that, people also, we've got our fan clubs that think we're full of shit, but we haven't been faking this. We've been doing it for 3 years now, and um for the one or two loudmouths, there's 20 people that appreciate. um it's not about me and Sarah, but the community that's come together, and they're working together. Hey, Wade, how are you, buddy?
Hey,
um
wait. That's a
you
heart.
know yeah,
I'm not good at that.
there you go, Wade. There's a good heart.
Yeah, my
There you
fingers don't come together right. There we go.
go. So it doesn't just fall on the community, the space that we've created, it falls on the people that make up that community, and that's the people watching tonight, and that's the people out there that stay quiet but participate, and
Yes.
it's just been really, it's been cool. It's been very, very eye opening, over the last 3 years
Sure it
to
has.
see,
Sure.
there's this weird, all these steps you have to take as you traverse the paranormal, right? If you go from, um, the casual enthusiast to a team, then maybe to a bigger team, and then a
Mhm.
podcast, or then a business, and that's where things get really, um, incredibly, weird,
Yeah.
to a location owner, to a tour company, and there's territorial crap, so there's all these things that, and there are times I feel bad, Sarah, I feel like I dragged her into this. I didn't expect, some of it, but I also didn't expect, and it is easy to lose sight of all of the beautiful things that have come out of this when you're dealing with, like, the dumb shit sometimes. um but it's, when I run into people like you at MSP, or people at the Paracons that come up and are like, dude, you know, guys, this is amazing. It's like, yeah, that's what it's about. So it's about
Well,
keeping
there's
Denise.
there's
Go
so
ahead.
much more we have in common than we have apart. And if
Oh,
people would
yeah.
focus on the things we have in common, we would be so much happier and so much healthier, because really what we have apart is so trivial.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know,
And Sarah,
it's
nails it right on the head. We've lost sight. A lot of people have lost sight of why what we're all doing, right? And that's looking for something. And we're not all looking for the same thing, but it's become so much about all the extraneous nonsense and the other people. Like, we're worrying about what this guy's doing or that guy's doing, rather than what it is that, will kind of set us on this journey. And we've all started, right, for, very, very different reasons, and in some cases reasons that we originally thought are not even close to why we're really actually,
right.
exploring the paranormal. And that's where, you know that's one of the many gifts Sarah has given me over the past few years, is helping me figure out, why certain things happen, and then looking back even further and going, oh my God, like, even when we all think our first paranormal experience started, right, when you go back further, it might click on. So we have these really cool discussions with people, and it's not always about capturing evidence. And you'll see, I don't post a lot of evidence because, well, two reasons. One is, doesn't you can have the best evidence in the world and people are going to poo-poo it anyway, but it's not
Sure.
why I do it. I know it's not why Sarah does. We're doing it for ourselves. Evidence is great, right? But we're never going to convince everybody that,
Nope.
there's an afterlife, and
And we don't have
until
to.
no, there's really no reasons. People, the hardcore, researchers and investigators, I admire and I respect them, and that's cool. But it doesn't mean that other people that don't use, aren't measuring barometric pressure every 3 minutes are wrong. And it doesn't make them any less of an investigator. We're just investigating different
Different
things.
ways.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
different ways
different
and different
ways.
things, and it all
So
comes together.
yeah, and I will be the first to admit, right? When I started, I was watching all the shows, and you go out and you buy the K2 meter and the friggin' EDI and all this shit. And I had cases and
The
cases of
little mini
equipment.
recorder,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the little
And
digi
you drag
recorder,
it
just
at
to record it.
thermal camera. There's
Yeah, yeah.
$600. I literally use it to prop my phone up. Um, and you're dragging all this stuff around, and you're so busy focusing on the screens and on the words and on
You
the
miss the other stuff.
everything that's happening around you. It's
You
not
miss the other stuff.
yeah. So that's, been the evolution of Rob, at least, has been, yeah, slowly, in some cases rapidly, drifting away from the equipment and the desire, or the pressure to document and prove everything, and rather just experience. And for me, It's the greatest feeling in the world. And when we have guests on an event, especially when it's a skeptic and they're like, hold up, like what just happened? That doesn't make sense. That's for me is like the biggest reward when they walk out of there going, oh, okay, there might be something to this. They don't have to leave saying I fully believe, but if they leave with just a smidge of a new perspective or an open mind, to me that's like the coolest thing ever.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So when I had Sarah on last week, you mentioned a couple times that she had saved you. Do you want to share that story with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, I can, and yeah, it's not my first time talking about it. It can get I can get a little choked up on this story, but yeah, it's a long one. But I'll try to sort of abbreviate it where I can. But there was a period. It was in 2021, before Get Haunted really got rolling, or it ever got rolling. I was with another company, and I was doing public events with them, and we ended up landing. Denise, long story short, landing a very famous location in Rhode Island. All right. At the time, it was called, they call it the Conjuring House, right? So, huge moment, huge potential, and they were the only public event company allowed in there at the time. So they took like every date. In March of that year, I went up with the crew and we explored the house, right? So before we were going to hold events, we wanted to understand what it was. Plus, you're in the Conjuring House, man. Like, it's cool shit. That very first day one, I met Corey, and Corey and Jen are good friends of mine now. But I met Corey, and probably, I don't know, 10 minutes into this thing, I had like my first experience, and I was like, oh, like, what did I just see? And I was exploring it with this other person, and she happened to grab a photograph of me that becomes very important later. So yeah, there's a lot of drama around the place, and I get it. You can see why, but it's never going to change my story or what happened there. So it turned out, because I was kind of managing the East Coast crew. I had to go there a lot because there were weeknights. So after a fair amount of time, and I was going probably once to twice a week for about 6-7 months, and that's a lot, every other week. But after my 11th, now my experiences there were pretty intense, right? I have some of the best EVPs I'll ever capture. Photographs that, to this day, creep people out, right? I've sent one to Sarah. There's one I don't share. I've sent it to Sarah, and this photo, it just does weird things. Something new in it every time you look at it. But over the time I was spending there, the experiences got bigger. Things started happening at home. Things started happening around my kid. It was weird. Right? Now, all I knew at the time really was what I knew, right? And that is from stories and the movie, which I hadn't watched in years and probably couldn't even talk to you about because it was that long. But I knew something was happening, and something was happening. And at the same time, just bad things were happening too, and around me. I was at a company for 24 years. I made a lot of money in New Jersey, and just like that, it was over. big shock even to the people I worked with, because I was sort of Teflon in that company for a long time. And so that happens. I was in a wonky marriage. There was a lot of stresses there, and I noticed things at home. The dog started acting weird towards the end there, to the point where it was creating tension because my ex-wife hated the paranormal. She didn't like the paranormal, right?
Mm-hmm.
She just didn't. So, when that chick comes home with you, the whole thing changes for everybody, right? And there were nights I was there, my daughter would text me at like 3, and she didn't know I was there, and she'd be like, "Dad, there's something here. There's something." So, um, I had this huge responsibility, like this huge weight on me, um, that I felt a little bit responsible for what was happening all around me, but I had no way to control it. Weird things with my car, the whole big, all the paranormal stuff that you hear, and it
Mm-hmm.
never ends well.
Did
Um,
you realize it in that moment, though? Did you realize it was even linked to the paranormal? Because
yeah,
a lot of people don't have that
oh,
insight
I
to go,
did.
wait a minute, repeat exposures.
Some weird things started happening, like with how I processed it. Right, I didn't want to give the place up. Every time I went, that house gave me a little bit more. I had one goal, and I got it on my very last night. I asked for it. Um, but it would just give me enough to make me want to come back, to make me want to come back.
Sure.
And it was almost an addiction. Loved the place, loved Corey and Jen. Um, but as the shit was, burning around me, I like almost didn't care about that. I just wanted to get back, to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, there was, the library. I would go into that library and pull a book, just a random book, and flip that book open, and it would be a sentence like highlighted or underlined or in brackets, and um you know that meant something to me. It was strange. There's more
Mm-hmm.
to that story later. It's Greg. um See, that's the thing. I wasn't really aware of just how negative it was, but it was to a point where even my friends that didn't believe in the paranormal were worried about me. My whole demeanor changed, right? You also got to take into account that I lost, a $200,000 a year job, and there's other things that make you go, all right. And at my age, finding a job like that isn't easy. Um, so stresses were happening. I certainly wasn't the happiest person in the world anymore. I was watching, I was just watching things fall apart, and
Mm-hmm.
but every time I went back, man, there was a new story. There was something else. This house would give me something to make me go, all right, I got to get back. Um, on the
Hooked
11th
you in.
night, yeah,
Hooked you
and
in.
I had very dear friends that were there for this, and one of them was there on the very last night, and he's pretty big skeptic, right? And I chose to never ever sleep there, never. Like I just wouldn't. I couldn't sleep there. And we were allowed to, but I wouldn't. But that night, he's like, let's just sleep here and we'll leave. We'll get up early and we'll go. And I reluctantly said yes. Um, and for whatever, so we slept upstairs, and there's a whole EVP around this too. Um, I slept in the third bedroom. He slept in the middle. For whatever reason, I woke up around 9ish, 9:30, and I shot up out of bed, and it's they're angled ceilings. Smashed my head on the ceiling, and I'm like, I just knew. I knew. I'm like, I'm alone right now, and I wear hearing aids, so that silence creeps me out too. Um, but I'm like, why am I alone? So I did. I looked around the door. Terry, he wasn't in his bedroom, and I'm like, he left me. Like I'm gonna beat his ass. So, and for whatever reason, Corey and Jen weren't there. So I I like get my shit together. I go downstairs and I heard a car door. So I looked out the front window. I saw Terry loading his car, and I'm like, okay, good. So I went and I had my ears charging in the library, and I walked in and I bent down to pick up those hearing aids to put them in. And when I stood up, there was something right next to me looking up at me. And I know if they still have the security footage, I Bruce Lee. Probably on the footage, it's just me punching and kicking the air, but it was a kid, and
Wow.
it wrecked me. And I packed all my shit. I walked out. I was mad at Terry. I got in my car and I was done. Um, because it, and you do have to understand this. I questioned my own sanity many times throughout this. There's video of my dog. My dog was getting like kicked. He would growl at things. So I'm starting to question my own sanity. And when I saw what I saw there, um, it shattered everything that I thought I was immune to, if that makes sense. I thought I was okay. I went home, and anybody, yeah, Brandy, that's a great description.
That it's
Anybody that knows,
perfect. Yeah.
yeah, anybody that knows me knows I love my EVPs, and that house gave me some amazing ones. You can find me on one of Andrea's shows where I talk about it, and we play those EVPs. But I went home, I sold my DR60, quit the paranormal. I was just done. I was done. That was, I think, September. It was September, end of August of 2021. Sold all my shit, not all of it, but I sold the important things to me. I didn't want the tools anymore, Julia. I was like, I just knew and saw too much at that point, and it was a lot. And
Yeah.
with all the negative shit or perceived negative shit that was happening, I was just done. Right, I was just done. I needed a break, so stopped and wasn't doing events or investigations anymore. I was helping out where I could. But 5-6 weeks in, look, I don't care what anybody says, we all try to walk away at times, but once you've got that connection and that, it's hard to, you really can't walk away. How many times
It
have we
sucks
watched
you back in. It
Oh
sucks
God,
you
yeah.
back in.
And how many times have we watched people quit the paranormal and they're back 3 months later? So
Right.
I'm one of them. So I did start to ease back into it, and I'm like, you know what? That's when I really decided to just launch Get Haunted. So it was October 31st of 21. We did a private event or a private investigation, and I was like, you know what? Screw it, because I really, really missed working with people and the community. I was still having problems though. Things were not great, right? And then once you start, one of the caveats and dangers of blaming everything on the paranormal is that everything that goes wrong can be 10 times scarier than it needs to be.
Right.
So I was like doing a bit better. People are still worried about me. I did, before I sold the DR60, I did transfer all the recordings back onto my laptop. And honest to God, I never listened to them until I decided to do Andrea's show. But I did. I thought about the place a lot. I was tight with Corey and Jen, and I kind of disappeared out of their life. And I guess when you own that place, you kind of get it, right? You're like, okay, like so anyway,
Mhm.
I leave. Get On and starts up October 31st. And I start getting back into it, and we somehow managed to book out about 15 locations for next year. Even somehow in October we were able to do that. And the more I started, getting back into it, the more this story became, it came back. It came like the story came back. And I'm telling you, and the things at home weren't stopping. Um, I struggled. I struggled a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, there was, a morning. So we launched it. I met Sarah on our show. Um, then I had a fire. This fire just kind of broke out for no reason in my basement. That was my lifeline. I had a laser. I was doing Christmas stuff, and the laser just went up. It was like a $12,000 laser that went up, and
Woo!
now my income almost lost the house. My income is completely severed. Just sucked. Life sucked. Um, so I decided to have a fire sale. It's a fun play on words, and Sarah ended up buying a hoodie, um, which I thought was really cool, but and she was supporting us, but she wasn't part of Get Haunted yet, right? We just did the show, and then she ended up buying a hoodie. We chatted once, and then it was like once or twice on comments on Facebook. But then on February 2nd of 2022, Greg, no, I do now, but back then, no. I was literally struggling to wake my ass up every day. Right, it was hard to get out of bed. Um,
Well, you were past the oppression phase. You were fucking
well,
infested and working towards possession.
now this story may not go the way everybody thinks it's gonna go, but I'm also not going to deny that there was something. So that morning, I woke up. It was February 2nd, and it's just one of those mornings. And we just got a dog, which I never wanted, even though I love that little guy. It's like pets. It was for my daughter, but pets, and pets die. I don't handle that shit well. But I love him. Leo, you'll hear him bark at some point tonight. Took a shower and was getting dressed, and I kept my pistol in my top drawer, and grabbed a pair of socks in my sock drawer. And when I grabbed those socks, I saw the handle of the gun. And Leo was in a crate. And I was trying to crate train him, and he's just not good at that. So when I pulled those socks up, I heard a voice, Julian. It said, "Grab the gun." I knew what it meant. Um, and for a second, yeah, I thought about it. That's not me. It's not who I am. So, you know, to go that long in life and come to that moment where like that sounded like an option was foreign to me. I'm an army vet. I was infantry. Like this is not what I do.
Right.
So I shook it off. Leo, even my dog, reacted to that voice. So that's what scared me the most about this. Um, and I remember the words I said. I looked at him. I'm like, "We're gonna burn this fucking house down and go live in the woods, even if it's just me and you." Like, I just wanted to get away. Um, I shook it off. It was later that day. Voice, man, different voice, but same loudness. It was like, "Message Sarah." So I did. I didn't even know her. I was like, "Hey, did I ever tell you my story?" And she'll admit it. She's like, "Yeah, no, weirdo." But she didn't. She's like, "No, you didn't, but you can." So I talked to her, and for hours, I started explaining all these things and the experiences. Um, there was a point in that whole conversation where she changed, the questioning changed, and she started asking me really specific questions about things, right? Things that happen in my life. Did this ever happen to you? At 8 years old, did this happen to you? That's when I was like, "Fuck's wrong with this lady?" Like, because it was freaky, and there was a lot. A lot came out, and towards the end, she's like, "Hey, I got to get going." She's like, "But before you," she doesn't. She doesn't remember any of this shit. She's like, hey, Rob, did you ever stop and think that maybe those demons you're battling belong to you?" And she's like, "I gotta go." And I have a journal of all of these experiences that I had because it was fascinating to me at first.
Mhm.
So, but what she said hit me so hard in the gut that I was like, hold up. So I got that journal, and the questions she asked me were directly related to those experiences, like in ways that defy any real explanation. The 8 years old question mirrored something that I'd written in that journal, Julie. And I was like, when you talk about your world being completely just torn apart, shattered, and upside down, um, it was that moment looking at it, and I'm like literally drawing lines back to the questions she asked me.
Mhm.
And I was like, who the fuck is she? And why did I have to why did I even reach out to her? It gets crazier, Greg. um, and I sat there for hours just trying to make sense of all of this, and I'm like, wait, so did this experience was a representation of something that happened to me. Now that I'm not telling you all that there's something not pleasant there, but it took me a while to kind of sift through all of this, and these chats continued. And it wasn't until much later that the numbers, there's crazy numbers involved with this, but essentially what we figured out was that that house, right, took all of my baggage and all of the things that I was hanging on to, and some things that the 8 years old ones, it's big. It's big, and it's not like terrible big, but it's big to an 8 year old. It's one of the biggest things that I thought I had gotten over for, but I had hung on
Right.
to for 40 some odd years. And that house took, or the universe or whatever, took my, and say, hey, dude, like, here's all your baggage. It's on the table. You go fix it, or I'm going to fix it for you. And I did have to. And it was another thing she said to me. She's like, sometimes you got to walk through the fire to get to the other side. And it all started to make sense. And I'm like, holy shit. Now, the thing, you talked about the library, right? Those books I pulled and those things I had written down also tied in almost every situation to one of those things, right? It's mind friggin' blowing. It
Spirit
was
does that though.
holy
I mean,
shit.
spirit does that in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be negative.
Right.
It doesn't have to be demonic, but spirit will, if we don't close and open doors and take care of shit ourselves, it has a way of popping up and it takes care of it for us or puts us in the situation where it's It's now.
And
We
it's
don't care what
insanity.
time it is. It's now.
So now, exactly. Now, this is my new
You're right, Greg.
fascination. I'm sitting
Synchronicity.
here going, how is this friggin' possible? Then I started looking at dates. And I'm like, okay, get this, right? And I'm telling you, this is like, this is the Reader's Digest version. I wasn't supposed to be on Sarah's show. Bill, who was helping me out with Get Haunted, initially had reached out to Sarah on March 22nd of that year. And then Get Haunted was born. And then Bill invited me to be on Sarah's show with him. So on March 22nd, that happened. I went on Sarah's show 12/22 of 2022, which was 222 days later. It was 2/2 of 20. I'm sorry. It was on 12/22/2021, and 2/2/2022 was the day I was told to reach out to her. 22 days later, she had another big revelation for me. I think it was. There's so many of them. I ended up creating this massive spreadsheet of all these things, and then you just watch the twos populate, whether it's months, days, years, hours. It's insanity. So when you see the twos, all right, with on Get Haunted somewhere, that's where they came from. It was like 2 years, 2 months, I think, and 22 days later that Sarah ended up back at that house with me. It took me about a year, a year. And Sarah, if you're still watching, correct me because I get all thrown off on these things. Took me a little over a year to go back. I finally went back. Someone convinced me. And I went back with a different mindset and a different. I took my power back, right? Because I do believe that, and this is something that we talk about often, is I was front loaded, right? I went in there with those thoughts and those what I had heard and the things I'd seen. And I'm not taking away from anything. There's something in that basement that isn't nice, but it certainly isn't what we all make these stories out to be. Because after all of this, the overall and the overarching theme is that place fixed me. I was in a marriage that wasn't great for a long, long time, and for whatever reason, and that's part of one of my experiences. Whatever reason, I was hit with that divorce not much later, which was not a possibility. The big money job that I drove 72 miles to each day to make all that money to spend it on gas and be miserable and not really live, was taken away from me to the point in a way that nobody understood. Even the Japanese made a big video like, what the fuck happened, Rob? We love you. This is not right. The things that were not serving me
were taken away.
The things that were eating me alive without me even really knowing it were bubbled up and forced to the surface, in very, very amazing ways. So, and that never, ever, I don't think I ever would have looked at it, thought of it, or felt like that if I hadn't reached out to Sarah that day. Because I had no concept of that notion. She made me look at myself. She made me look at the power I handed over to the other side.
Right.
And she made me take that back. And I truly, to this day, am convinced she saved my life, because I was not in a good place. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm reading that too. So that for the people that can't see the side comments, Sarah said, just so that everyone knows, he was a guest on my show on 12/22/21. I joined the network that night. However, we never spoke on a personal level. It just shifted. Sorry. Just a comment here and there in the past. 2/2/22 was the first personal conversation when he shared his story. You can watch the guest spot with me where we never discussed his spiral.
Nope.
Fell the house. I only knew he lost his job.
Yeah, it was not something I talked to people about, I was not proud of how I was feeling or acting even, but again, friends, like close family friends were like, "Hey dude, like they were going to my ex-wife saying, "There's you got something's going on. Like what the fuck? Like why is
Right.
it just wasn't me." Um so, it did make me look at not just myself differently, but the paranormal and the things we do and um the things we maybe shouldn't do sometimes, but more importantly, when you surrender, when you give all your power over and you just say, you know what, there's isn't shit I can do about this, and I'm screwed. It is so not good. It is so not good. Um, so front loading, a big thing, right? It's in people give me shit for not doing a lot of research on certain locations before we go there. I don't want to be tainted with that, right? Because I do believe now when we investigate and if we know the story of location X and it's a Revolutionary War house, um, what happens almost every single time? There's an experience and somebody takes that and puts it in the Revolutionary War box in that particular, in the kitchen. It's got to be, Mrs. Smith who died here when the stovepipe fell and hit her on the head. It changed everything, and this story is insane. It unfolds even to this day. As later she had more revelations and the library stuff made sense. It'll be a book or something one day. It's just finding time to write it down and then to take your mind and wrap it around all this has been it's been insane. So what it's done for me is a lot. A lot. I no longer care. It's nice. Look, having money was nice. It was. Don't get me wrong, but I learned the hard way that it's not what's super important. Um,
No.
it's our relationships with each other. It's the humanity, the soul connections, the regular connections, the just being kind or experiencing these things and paying attention to what's going on around you and investigating in the way that works for you. Um,
Yes.
because we can all be in a room and have an experience at the same time and we will all interpret it very very differently, right? My interpretations back then were not good, not good, right?
They were
um
what was needed in the moment, though. You see,
it
I don't think you
was.
can even label it as being good or bad. I think it was where you were in that journey and where we're supposed to be until we're ready to find out what needs to change. And you weren't ready
Absolutely.
until that moment.
Yeah, exactly. And Sarah, another conversation, she's like, hey, what was your first experience? And I thought I knew when it was, and she's like, no, go back further. And she just shook me back to like 19, the one I can remember. It was like 1989 when this pretty miraculous thing happened. And I never thought of it as paranormal, but it kind of was. It kind of was. So, when you start really digging deep and when you start seeking with your soul, which was a show we we put on pause right now, but that's where we have these kind of discussions.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm not quick to I'm not quick to jump on people and say, "Oh my God, you've got we got to clear." Like I think digging deeper and trying to find out what's going on with a human being when they have these immense experiences or crippling
Yes.
experiences um, is very very important because sometimes I think we can do more harm than good by blaming something entirely on the paranormal. So
Well, and trauma trauma will bring out things that we can say that was paranormal, and I would beg to differ with the word paranormal. I would say that is a spiritual moment.
Spiritual,
Now,
yes.
could it be a spirit? Could it be an entity? And I don't go so far as, I won't always say things are bad or good. People are always saying to me, do I have a demon in my house? Well, first of all, very few people have demons in their houses. Like, I have a cat that I swear is demonic half the time. That's a whole different beast. But sometimes there are energy waves, and I truly believe the Japanese in their anime have a way of coming through, and they say that which we speak, no, that which we do and say, actions, words, and deeds.
Okay.
Actions,
Yeah.
words, and deeds from our mouths or from our actions or deeds create a curse like energy, which will come back and it'll hit us somehow. And it's not necessarily karmonic, and it's not necessarily bad, because something that is bad can actually change your life in a very positive way. So
Absolutely.
can you label that as a bad event? It was a traumatic event, life-changing event,
Yeah.
but was it a bad event?
Thank you. Yes. And see
You know?
that.
So half the houses we go to are not what I would say paranormal. There may be mirrors that are portals. There may be objects that have energy. But I would say for me, 75% of the time, that energy is coming from that person because of trauma that they've gone through. So my role then becomes the social worker, the cleaner upper, the
Yeah.
getting them the resources they need to work through that trauma so that they can take back their house and their lives and their paths.
Yeah. And it's literally for me, and that's what Sarah did for me. And it was literally a switch. I my whole life changed in that one sentence, and I went from being helpless to going, holy shit, holy shit. So now, prior to that, right? So now we all know, she is my grounder. This was
Hey, baby.
this this is that photo that I did not know. That was day one at the house at that
Oh,
location.
wow.
Um, so
Wow.
and in the midst of the insanity, a friend of mine called from Florida. He's like, "Hey," he's like, "Uh, I'm at one of Andrea Perrin's lectures, and there's a picture. This guy looks like you, dude." And I'm like, "What?" And so, and it somehow she got that photo, and that's how I ended up talking to Andrea. And
Mm-hmm.
when I explained everything, and she said something really interesting to me. She's like, "You're the first one to get it." And she's like, "You gotta do my show." That's like, really, Sarah was the first one to get it, right? So as Andrea viewed that house very differently than
Mm-hmm.
most people do. Because it does. There's something about that land. It's not just that house. That whole area is freaking weird.
Mm-hmm.
There's an energy up there that's different. You feel it a quarter mile away, right? Can't just be that one spot. But whatever it is, there's something different about that whole area. But when I used to look at that photo and see something really evil, now I look at it and I see old Rob busting his ass out of me. Like and whether I'm right or wrong, it's still a better story, right? But that's what I see. I see just the negative shit getting purged out of me now. That's the way I see it. And I truly, just to this day, I cannot even believe the questions Sarah asked. She has not asked me to repeat them to her, and I probably never will.
She can't. She said she couldn't remember them,
She
but that
can't.
happens.
No.
That happens so
Yeah.
many times. You sit with people and you'll say things to them, At least I've done that, and they've texted me 2 or 3 days later. We've all been sitting around drinking wine, and they'll text me 2 or 3 days later and say, "Can you tell me again what you
Yeah.
said that night to me because it was life-changing?" And I'm like, "I don't even
Nope.
remember talking to you, dude."
Yeah.
Like, it
She's a
just made me
knower. She's a knower. She'll know things that she shouldn't know. So it's creepy sometimes. But for somebody to pull that out of me, pull those
doesn't
answers
surprise
out,
me.
it was just, it literally changed my whole life. So I say it. She probably doesn't love it. Yeah, that when to know, or that when I say she saved my life, because nobody wants to think about or admit to that I was in a bad place.
Well,
Um,
yeah. And that
and
was a choice. That was that fork in the road where you could have gone either way with
either
that.
way,
You
either
could have.
way.
And life is so precious, but
Ah,
people have that choice all the time.
right.
And they listen to those voices in their heads. And that voice may not have been an actual direction to you to do something. It's, we jump, here's a gun, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm at
Could have
that
been
place. It could have
just
been, you understand this is a life choice
yeah.
right now. Your
Yeah.
choice is going to change your life.
And it needed to change, right?
And it needed
It
to
needed
change.
to change. So, and then things just started clearing up. Things started clearing out of the way. And I was like, and it's without a lot of effort on my side. I was trying to get my shit together, but then some of the bigger hurdles just got cleared out of the way without me having to do them. And it
Well,
was
yeah.
like, oh my God. Oh my God. So yeah, the twos, and I don't know if I told that story or if, because I'm not seeing all the questions, but the twos started showing up, and I just sit here going, man, like, did I do a whole pile of mushrooms and this, we're just on this crazy trip right now? Like, it's been nothing but magical ever since, and it helped me become a better and maybe sometimes scarier investigator, because we can just sit now and connect, and there's some funky shit happens. Denise has witnessed it. Sarah's been around it many times. Um, and it's what I love. I'm telling you, whatever is out there, and I agree, Julie. It's not always the ghosts of people. I believe in spirit, which is very, very different to me than a ghost, right? Like the typical
Absolutely.
ghost.
Well, and Wade will tell you the difference between a spirit and a ghost. They're
Oh yeah,
two
Wade. No, I've driven to West Virginia with Wade, which is one of the best experiences you can have.
But there's other
So,
things out there too. And I mean,
oh
even
God, yeah.
Andrea, I had a great conversation with Andrea at I think it was one of the Kansas City events. And she said, I said, how did you deal with all of the darkness? And she said, you embrace everything that comes to you. It
Oh
doesn't matter whether it's light or dark, it's there for a reason. You embrace it because love conquers all.
yeah,
And I
she's
really truly believe that.
yeah. She also, in some of our talks, she said, um, Rob, sometimes they present themselves in the way they know they're going to get your attention, and
Yeah.
that was kind of
Holy
interesting
shit. Yeah. I have
to
had
me.
some horrible things come to me. And I've sat down and people are like, how did you deal with that? And it's like, once I started talking to it, it wasn't that bad. Like it triggered me because I had shit I hadn't worked through. Everybody else saw it as being different. And I saw it as this horrible thing. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, it's showing me what I need to work on in myself.
Yeah,
Because
listen.
there by the grace of God go I, like I'm not perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes and there's,
Oh yeah,
you
and
know,
we all do, right? And
listen to the wrong voices and not
yep.
being grateful and had gratitude when I should have. But you open that blessing door and you realize how good life really is and shit just follows in line and the doors open and they just amplify.
Everything changes, right? And
Mhm.
if you can present the best version of yourself to everybody out there, wherever that's what you get back in most
Yeah.
cases. The sad part is, you're never going to please everybody, and there's people that will poo-poo this story all day long. Don't care. I'm not here to prove
It
anything to
doesn't
anybody.
matter. It's your story.
What I know is what I know. What I experience is what I experience, and it's why you'll never see me or you'll never see Sarah question somebody else's experience. Like it's one of my pet peeves in the industry. People tend to question other people's experiences, and I just don't think there's room for that. Especially when we all interpret things so differently, right? For me, this VIP ticket sliding across the table could just be spirit saying, "Hey, dude, don't forget to talk about those." Where somebody on the side would be like, "Oh my God, you've got a poltergeist. You got to move." Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it is, and look, Sarah, I'll tell you, I wasn't going to do Andrea's show. It was the first time talking about it. Sarah still wasn't super comfortable with me sharing her gifts. But also looked at it from the corporate standpoint as sort of future career suicide as well. Like, I'm going to tell this story and it's fucking nuts. And people are either going to say I'm nuts, um, believe me, or run away from me. Right. And here's what happened. Uh, and she freaked me out. She's like, "Okay, you got 2 hours, go." And that's all she did. And I was like, "Wait, what? Like, I need, I need help." What happened after that? Starting that night was phone call and message, and people like, "Holy shit, Rob!" I I didn't, and other people that were having similar experiences, and even
Mhm.
crew people that I worked with that were like, "Dude, um, I never thought of it that way. Oh my God." And there were a lot of people, some of them as far as Australia, that called and they were like, you just helped me more than you'll ever believe. Um, in that moment, I was like, this was so worth it. And it was so being vulnerable and so going out there. And I know there's gonna be people that are like, this guy don't care. I'm not selling a book. I'm not selling a movie. I will write a book about it because I do believe this needs to be documented, especially for my kid. And if that's where it stays and it's a handwritten book, that's what it's going to be. But as the story keeps unfolding, there's just so many things and the numbers and the dates and all these damn crazy serendipitous moments in life to even being here with you, Julie. Um, Brian Peony and Sarah and I had a similar conversation earlier today. Like, we just end up now, and that red thread just gets threaded through, and you meet all the
We
right
meet we're
people.
supposed to meet. We connect with those we're supposed to connect with.
Yeah. So yes, I'm sorry for getting choked up here. It's to
No,
no, this one I did good tonight. Sometimes I'm a
you did really
massive
well.
shit show crying. It's a hard story for me to tell.
I don't think crying is ever a shit show. I think
Uh,
we are
when I get
vulnerable to our trauma, we're vulnerable to our past, and changes, I think we're overwhelmed because changes are so hard and the lessons we've learned are so big that tears are not just of sadness and trauma, but of joy that we made it through.
100%, but I when I get all snotty and can't even talk, it's like,
That's okay.
right.
It's okay.
Yeah. So
I
I
so
do
appreciate you sharing that because that is, like Brandy said, if we don't have these discussions, you know, people need to see all sides of
have to.
the paranormal. And we have our stories, and we can look at them. However, how I look at some of the stories that happened to me 2 years ago now are different than how I looked at them in the moment
Oh,
when
yeah.
shit was falling apart.
And that's called evolving, right?
Right.
And that's where, if we lock ourselves in those cages and we don't expand and look at everything differently, sometimes you'll never learn anything. um and that's what Sarah taught me that day was like, dude, look at this from a different angle. It may not be exactly what you think.
Hmm.
Um, it's just
And
is
be willing
amazing.
to change your methods, change what you're doing. You know, I think, like you said, we get so hung up in equipment and doing things a certain way. And,
Yeah,
you know, I've got to do it this way because this is how everybody's doing things. Last night, we did an investigation in a private residence and sat down to do an Estes method, had all the cool kids' toys, you know,
yeah,
had cool kids' toys, was having fun with the cool kids' toys. And I'm like sitting there going, damn, this is the weirdest shit. Like I channel all the time. Brandy and people, Russell, everybody who's investigated with me has seen me channel. I get jumped easy. Things come through me, they speak through me, and I'm getting absolutely nothing except for ocean waves in my headphone through an SB7 and shadow people walking back and forth in front of my little red goggles,
yeah.
which
Oh
should
yeah,
not have been
those are
walking,
fun.
and didn't get anything else.
It
I
wasn't your name.
unplug and but I look at my box that's been going off because I had the noise canceling stuff and couldn't hear
Yeah.
anything. Had something else running, and the box was answering all my husband's questions.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, listen,
So,
it's
you know, so let's have a different conversation. Let's be willing to go, okay, clearly that wasn't the right method in that moment. And I knew it. I needed to just sit there and be myself and just have a chat
just have a chat. Yeah. You know,
and feel what
and
I feel and be there in the moment.
oh, that's awesome. And that's it. And that's even that sometimes just sitting, not even investigating.
Yeah,
All of my
that's the
big experiences have been just being and just sitting and not trying so hard. Um so yeah, look, and riding down to West Virginia with Wade, talking about remote viewing and all these different things, and I'm learning from Wade, and Wade's looking at some things differently. It was just like
love you,
it's like
Wade.
it's so cool. It's so cool. Um,
He is a wealth of knowledge
oh, it's ridiculous.
and
And
gives the best hugs. I miss him.
oh look, and I love when he's right there next to me. I'm like, I know if shit gets wonky, Wade's there with
Wait till you
his
take care of
water.
it.
He's got you covered.
By the
And
way, Wade, the doll is doing really well. I'm doing really well with the doll. And let me rephrase that. I'm handling the doll. I picked up a haunted doll and Wade instructed me on who was
uh,
boss.
okay.
And
Well, there you go.
I had to figure that whole power struggle thing out, but I'm rocking it. So we're good.
Good, good. So yeah, so look, that was kind of my story. It's shaped the person sitting here talking to you today. It shaped a lot of things, in the company and my personal life. It's just different. Everything became different. Um, and again, I'm not saying that there's not shit to worry about out there. Are things you have to be
Yes.
careful with, right? But we can't give it all over to that every single time something weird happens. It just doesn't work that way.
No.
So
And
yeah.
to me, love is still the answer. You know,
Oh
we
yeah.
hold the key if we have love in our hearts and we have faith and a higher source. I'm not going to
Yeah.
label who that is or what that
Okay.
is for anybody. That's between me and my God. That's not anybody else's,
That's right.
I don't argue with people over that. But faith is the most important thing in love.
Yeah.
And to me, that will always conquer the negative. And having
Yeah.
a grounded partner that stays by you through those
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
is
And you have to
most
love you
so
do. You have to love yourself as well. And I learned pretty quickly I wasn't loving myself, right? I couldn't because I was too busy worried about all of these other things that were weighing me down. So yeah, Julie, it's fun, it's scary, it's amazing, it's mesmerizing. But it is all something that we weave into the fabric of what Get Haunted is and what our events and are like. So it's part of the recipe. Good night, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Greg. And
Brandy.
Brandy's awesome. Y'all need to have her, and her daughter Bella's watching too tonight.
Oh, cool.
Bella's gonna soon to be, I believe, 15-year-old that has investigated with me and has her own company, her own brand of cleansing stuff.
Awesome.
Amazing
Yeah.
investigator, amazing medium. And her mom is right there supporting side by side, teaching
Good.
and working with her. And nice to have young people coming up because they're our future.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's
And
where I think having um broad knowledge or understanding or even ability to look at things differently becomes very, very important, especially in formative years like that. So I mean, I took my kid out at 15 and it got a little dicey at one point at one location, but um she loved it. She
Randy.
absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Well, my 11-year-old grandson loves it too. And his parents are not ready for that yet.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they grew up with what they call the weird side of mom. So they don't,
I get it.
they're not into that, but that's okay too. You know, it's whatever. It comes in its own time. It does. It does. I've learned more about myself with Julian Duchess and Fabulous Sarah. Damien needs to quit drinking energy drinks. I
I
tell
don't
him
know
that.
how I don't understand how he functions. Like, dude, I'm like, is he a bot? Is he real? Like, is he AI? Like, what if Damien's AI?
Ooh, I didn't think of that.
The dude doesn't sleep, but yeah, he drinks a lot of energy drink. But we've had chats, but yeah, he's an amazing soul, and
He is
another
always
reason.
on the show. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. I
he's a
appreciate
great
that.
guy. But yeah, so that's sort of the Reader's Digest version, believe it or not, of this story. That one day, all the crazy uh, threads will be mapped out. You'll see. I'll talk about the 8-year-old experience, right? But and the actual experience that ties back to it. It's insane. The whole thing's crazy, amazing. Yeah, one day.
When you're ready.
When we find time, I need to find time to actually
Yeah.
document all this stuff before
I
I get
think when you
more
speak
information.
it too, more's going to come out.
Oh God, yeah. Look, I mean,
That's been my experiences. When
yeah,
I finally go to speak a truth that I've not talked about excessively,
yeah,
all of a sudden the light bulbs start popping, and then
yeah,
that, like, the universe just goes, all I needed you to do was speak it, and then
yeah,
here comes the rest of the puzzle pieces.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
true story. Well, yeah. So I'm not going to see you this weekend, am I? Right?
You
You're
are
not
not
coming.
going to see me this
That's a
weekend.
bummer.
No, I'm here in Missouri. I am not doing that drive for a minute again.
No.
But I've already bought my tickets for the MSP book signing.
I saw June 21st.
So, yeah.
Another red thread moment. Brian, you met Brian already once, right? When we were out
Yeah.
there. He had such a good night. He wrote a whole damn book about it. So here we are doing it again in June. It's gonna be
That's
cool.
awesome. I'm so looking
Yeah.
forward to that.
Yeah.
Looking
Me
forward to that.
too.
Any other plugs you want to give? The soirees this weekend.
We got soiree. We've got, I think right now we have already about 8 different events set up for next year. Just check out gethaunted.com. Follow us on Facebook, on all the socials. We have the Get Haunted Network public page, which is where the community comes together, and then our business page is it's less fun, but it's where we put the important stuff too. Yeah,
Great merch. Check out
oh
their
yeah,
merch line. Great merch.
yeah. If you're a team and you need merch, we're your guys and gals. We make all our own merch. We do merch for a bunch of the celebs. If you're a team that does events, we have a ticketing agency, extremeticketing.com. That's XTREME. Yeah, you'll find all that stuff over on our socials. But Julie, thank you for having me. She warned me she was going to ask me some tough
Yeah,
questions.
I did. I let him know what I wanted to talk about ahead of time, and I'm so blessed that you shared that. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for your openness and you're willing to share such a personal story with the audience, because to me, if we don't share these things, people don't learn, and they miss different journeys in their lives.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
And
know, and
Sarah is really like the one that be thinking like that one little redirect right there, and that moment of knowing, literally, you know, again, who the hell knows? Would we have ever met, Julie? I don't know. Um,
I don't
it's
know either.
it's really cool. It's really cool. It's been a wild
You all are
ride, and
special to me. Thank you so much.
oh,
My husband to me is like Sarah is to you. He is my rock and my ground. And he comes to me and says, whoa, 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 I need to go check yourself. Put crazy on the shelf and go check yourself, because we got some issues going on here.
yeah, she keeps me on.
Take
She
a look
keeps
at
me on the
this.
rails. You know.
Yeah. But we have to have people like that. When you look at the other teams, you know, I just a short thing I always go back to with my people. I may have the name wrong. Mark and Debbie Constantino.
Oh yeah.
What a tragedy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
talented lady,
Yeah.
gifted in her field, but tormented. So both of them so tormented. And you know, who's to say tormented from the houses that they went into, tormented from the entities that attached, or tormented from their own trauma in childhood.
Never know,
You know,
right?
it's a picture of everything. It's a mixture of everything. And
Yeah.
if we don't tell our stories and let people know that these things can be worked through, and people listen, and you're not crazy. We've all had those stories.
There's hope, and there's a whole community of people willing to listen to you, right? You know,
Yes.
I was embarrassed to admit what I thought at the time was a weakness, and here I am talking about it. So it's
It's the
important.
human experience.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
I love you. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you. Thanks, Julie.
That's it for tonight. Hang on backstage if you want. If not, you got to go to bed or eat or whatever. I got that too.
Okay.
Love
I'll say
y'all.
good night to you.
Next week.